Welcome, fellow Phoenixes, to the Spiritual Phoenix Podcast, where we make a daily offering to the divine by putting our past on the pyre, searching the smoke for spirituality, turning the ashes into art, adapting isolation into connection, and manifesting mental wellness. I'm your host, Ross Cessna, and I'd like to take a moment and focus on what we're grateful for today. Today, I'm grateful for my clean time and also my mental health. I wouldn't have the mental health that I currently have without my clean time, and I couldn't have my clean time without my previous work to get to where I was at with my mental health. I'd like to get into two quotes for today. Once you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. And that was said by Ralph Waldo Emerson. The second one is, the lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. And that's from the Kybalion. In regards to the first quote, that really applies to my recovery. With my mental health things, I had to make a decision that I wanted to get better. I had to make a decision that I would take the necessary steps to improve the quality of my mental health and in turn my life, and that also applies to recovery from my addiction issues as well. I had to make a decision that I did not want to use anymore and that I was willing to go to any lengths necessary to get that. And I had to surrender my own will to a power greater than myself, which I perceive to view it as the mysteries, the fathomless unknown, the divine source, or source energy, whatever. I call it a million different things. For some people it's God, and sometimes I say God myself. Good orderly direction is what I mean by that. I don't mean some anthropomorphized deity in the sky. And with the lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding, that really applies to recovery. I had been in and out of recovery programs since I was 16. I'm 32 now, going on 33 in a couple months. And it took me that long to really understand the wisdom in recovery and realize that recovery from addiction isn't just about using. It's about changing your whole way of life, thinking, actions, people you hang out with, people, places, and things, really. It's a complete lifestyle change. That applies to mental health as well. For a long time, I didn't understand the wisdom of some of the mental health professionals that were working with me. And when I finally opened my ears to it and understood what they were saying, I was able to apply things to make my life better. I found out my problem. Addiction is a symptom of the mental illnesses I'm diagnosed with. So by listening to the lips of wisdom and having ears that understand, I was able to progress. Currently, the quality of life I have is unfathomable to the one that I used to have. It was the life that I wanted in many ways. And granted, things aren't perfect. Things are never going to be perfect. But I'm learning the necessary tools to deal with things. I used to be angry all the time. If I wasn't angry, I was depressed. If I wasn't depressed, I was isolated, depressed, angry, and just rotting on the inside. Today, those feelings and emotions still occur occasionally, but the number at which they occur is substantially reduced, and the length of time that those feelings stay is substantially less. I have to stay active in my recovery from mental illness and addiction, and that recovery involves socializing, going to meetings, exercising, meditating, yoga, eating right, speaking right, following my creative pursuits, really doing all the things that I wanted to do, but I was held back by either negative thinking or by using to run away from my problems. I still get fearful of things, but when I put my my faith into the source or the mysteries or my higher power, I can face those fears. I also have to realize today that everything I love will die. I mean, in a Buddhist non-detachment sense of the way, looking at that way, I can appreciate what's in my life now, but not be attached to it. Granted, I'm still working on that, and attachment to non-attachment is attachment in and of itself. And since this is episode 37, I'd like to get into a little history about the number 37 in my life. It's somewhat off topic of everything else, but my mental illness was present early on in my life, and one of the things that used to always occur was this fear of the number 37. For the long time, I thought I was going to die at 37. I would see it at really odd times in my life when things were changing and shifting, and I would become obsessed with that number. Today, I don't feel that way. I mean, there was a time when I thought I was going to kill myself at 37 too, because I figured if life wasn't good by then, I would kill myself. I can't say that it won't happen. I don't want to kill myself. I don't think that my choices now are going to end my life at 37. And the way that I perceive it now is it's a number. It's the most common random number. And there's been studies done on that as well. It also reminds me of the Ohm symbol now. So there's a lot of different meanings for that in my life now, and I normally see it at times of change. As far as everything else in my life goes, things are going good. I'm progressing with my work on this project, the Spiritual Phoenix podcast. I'm progressing with my website. I'm progressing with how I want to live my life. I can't focus on the past because it's already occurred, and I can't focus on the future because there's so many underlying things that I don't know that it will or won't happen. So if I want to plan for the future, I can do that by taking action today and not acquiescing to apathy, by pursuing my dreams in small, tangible ways daily. Incremental advancement, as one of my mentors has taught me. She has a lot of wisdom that I've learned from her, and I'm grateful for that. As far as recovery, it's something I will always have to deal with. It will get easier, and it's going to be worth it. Everything that I have done is going to be worth it. It's the fight that I want to pursue. At one point, I wrote about my mental health and addiction issues, and I said that I'm kind of like Sisyphus, Prometheus, and Tantalus from Greek mythology. Sisyphus had to eternally push a boulder up a hill, and every day his progress was reset, and that's like me. I can stay clean for a day, and I can be mentally healthy for a day, but when I wake up, I have to continually progress with it. As far as Prometheus had given light to people, and then he was eternally tormented by being put on a rock and having vultures eat his innards out every day, and then he was restored, and it was a never-ending cycle of that. As far as Tantalus, he was given the food. There was food in front of him and water in front of him, but every time he reached for the food, it would go up higher on the branch, and every time he reached for the water to quench his thirst, it would go lower, so he couldn't reach it. And in many ways, I'm like that, going up a hill. I'm pushing up a hill while vultures peck at me, and while these desirable objects move out of my grasp. The thing is, I'm facing the light. I'm no longer staring into the abyss, and I do get things that quench me. It might not be the desires that I want, but most of the desires that I wanted weren't healthy for me anyhow. I get exactly what I need, and I have an abundance of everything I need. There's many people that would feel like they were living like a king if they had the things that I used to take for granted and the things that I now appreciate. I'm grateful for my recovery. I'm grateful for the ability to progress. I'm grateful for all that I have. One of my friends put, maybe it's the end of your old self. It definitely is. That's part of the Spiritual Phoenix podcast thing, is that every day I die and I'm reborn in my ashes, or from the ashes of who I was. Granted, some days I'm reborn as a fractal of who I used to be. Um, and that's okay too. Sometimes there's progress from regress. It's not going to be a straight line. I'm not always going to be successful. I tend to learn more from my failures than from doing something correct anyhow. Because if I do something correct, then I get this inherent ego about it. If I mess up a lot of times and I finally get it right, it's a very humbling experience. And with that, I think I'm going to put this episode on the pyre. Thank you, everybody that's watching or listening to this. Please check the links below for my social media accounts. If you're on YouTube, they'll be on the top of the channel. If you're on Facebook Live, you can go to my webpage, www.thespiritualphoenix.com. If you're on iTunes or SoundCloud, they should be listed there as well. They'll be in the episode description also on iTunes. I do free tarot readings occasionally, and I'm building up a database so you can select a reading at random choice or read the most recent reading. A link for that will be in the description. If you could please leave a review on iTunes. If you like the podcast, it'll help me reach new listeners. You can contact me via message on Facebook if you have any topics you wish to hear me discuss, and you can also potentially be on the show. Ideally, you will have had a major life obstacle you have overcome or are overcoming, and you'll have a positive philosophy, spiritual experience, both, or something inspirational to share with people. If you could please take the time to respond to the PodTrack listener survey, it'll help me better understand my audience. Also, if you would like to get paid to write, I'll have a link for that as well. All you have to do is to be able to write 5 sentences in English. And with that, love and light. Thank you again for listening. I love, appreciate, and respect all of you. Namaste.